So when you assess the security situation in the Asia-Pacific, what are the potential flashpoints?
If you look at the situation overall, and you bear in mind the fact that the greatest shifts of power in human history are now taking place in East Asia, in the Asia-Pacific region, against that backdrop, we should be seeing in the region naturally rising levels of tension. Instead, we don't see it. Now, yes, there are some flashpoints that, relatively speaking, we have low levels of tension in the region.
And in which ways do you think the US pivot to Asia has changed the regional security and peace?
I think the United States made a big mistake by speaking about a pivot to Asia, giving the impression that what it was doing was something sudden and different, when in fact the United States has been a part of this region for decades. It's always been here. And if you look at it in absolute terms, the American military presence has not increased significantly since the pivot. The American economic presence is the same. And I actually believe that it is in the interests of the countries of the region, and I even say somewhat provocatively, even in the interest of China, to see a continued United States presence in this region. Because if you look at it, the last 30 years have been the best 30 years of growth for China and the best 30 years of growth for many countries in this region. And one reason for that is the stabilizing presence of the United States.
For many Chinese, the US pivot to Asia strategy is getting much clearer as to contain China. At the same time, the United States wants to avoid the conflict and to engage with China. So how would you think the situation will last?
The most important geopolitical relationship in the world for thousands of years has always been between the world's greatest power and the world's greatest emerging power. So I think it's a mistake to use the word containment, and that we have to accept it as a natural thing, that there'll be a mixture of competition and cooperation. And I'm actually relieved at the level of cooperation that exists within the United States and China.
China is not satisfied with the status quo in the Asia security and proposed a new security outlook based on pragmatic cooperation and confidence building. Can Xi Jinping's new concept be achieved?
So everybody in the world is watching China very carefully to see what kind of China will emerge. And therefore, it's very important for President Xi to come out and say, this is our vision for the future. So if he talks of pragmatic relationships, if he talks of cooperative security, that's good for the region. But at the same time, you know, it will be realistic for any Chinese government to understand that even though China has been talking about a peaceful rise for a long time, the level of concern over China's growth is rising. And so it is good for China to take preemptive steps to try and reassure its neighbors and to assure the rest of the world that China is still committed to peaceful development.
Professor Mahbubani, thank you for talking to CCTV News.